back to Hi Guys, it's your boy BDR, and I'm back with another AQ Roads overview video. Now today we got an overview on, the buffed Troll Spellsmith. As you guys know, as of June 6th, they made some changes to a whole bunch of these, reputation classes. Just like last time, with Horka Vader, we're now going to be doing an overview on its counterpart, Troll Spellsmith. So yeah, the same way, to get Troll Spellsmith is, rep shop, go to Blood Tusk, talk to this dude right here, and you could get Troll Spellsmith. I don't recommend 2KACs. Troll rep is not bad at all to grind. Just get some rep boosting stuff and be on your way. So yeah, you have to be rank 10 Troll to buy the class free. Alright, let's talk about, its new skills and whatnot. So first off, it has its own auto attack in Spellsmith Blade, 2-second cooldown, physical, short range, one target. Strike a target, with a magic infused blade. Damage is dealt is increased by your sigil stacks. Then we have Energy Arc, which went from 35 mana cost to now 15 mana cost. The cooldown went from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. Magical long range. The damage did get reduced from 80% damage. Now it's, 30% now? Magical long range attack that deals damage to 4 targets. Reduces the haste of each foe hit by 7% for 10 seconds, stacks to 3. So now, Energy Arc now properly reduces haste. The haste reduction went from 5% to 7%, and the Energy Arc stack limit reduced from 4 stacks to now 3 stacks. Now, then we have Frost Flame, 25 mana, 10-second cooldown, magical long range, one target. The cooldown went from 5 seconds to 10 seconds, and whatnot. Chilled no longer reduces haste, now stuns for 2 seconds. While applying both chilled and seared at the same time. Chilled stuns your targets for 2 seconds, while seared, reduces your target's outgoing damage by 20% for 10 seconds. So seared went from 30% to 20%, and seared went from 8 seconds to 10 seconds to sealed duration. Okay. Then we have our rank 3 skill, Sigil Overload. Previously known as Focus Energy. Now it no longer applies, self-damage, restores mana, or applies energy drain. Now it becomes focus your energy into your sigils. Apply Sigil Overload for 15 seconds, increasing your outgoing damage by 10%, but it consumes any stacks of Spellsmith shield you have. So, and now it just it doesn't, take mana anymore. It doesn't remove a bit of your HP to get mana. Okay, so we have that. Empowered. Outgoing magic damage increased by 10%. And, Shift Fate. Now it increases hit chance and crit chance increased by 10%. Previously it was just crit chance, now it also increases hit chance as well. And your rank 5 skill, Spellsmith Sigil, previously known as Weakness Sigil. The mana cost went from 10 mana to 20 mana. The cooldown went from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. Heals you in a small amount and applies Sigil, increasing your crit chance by 5% and causing your other skills to deal increased damage for each stack. Also applies Spellsmith Shield, increases your damage resistance by 7%. Both effects stack to 5 and last 15 seconds. So yeah, the Troll, resilience damage resistance per stack went from 10% to 7%. And now the damage went from, 100 to 20%. Healing is now based off of spell power instead of attack power. And now the heal will always crit. And finally, for, the rank 10 passive, here you go, Troll Control. Haste is increased by 10%. Spellsmith Sigil has a small chance to apply Troll Control, increasing your haste by 100% for 20 seconds. So now the only difference now Then it now increases your haste by 10%. So there you go, guys. Those are the skills. Based on where we could get so far, it's just kind of like this is kind of like a new way of playing the class. You know, sigil, you need sigil stacks to, to do your damage, and yeah, pretty much it. Alright then, let's move on to combos and enhancements. Alright people, so here's the build for, Troll Spellsmith. Exactly the same thing as the previous Troll Spellsmith video. Right here, build hasn't changed, unlike Horcavator, which now it has its own way of mana, so we used Ravenous in the video, so here we go. Alright, oh, alright then, for your combo, what you want to do here is, you want to press 5 times, and whatnot, and then you're just going to press, 2, 3, and 4, and use 5 whenever you get hit, and, just spam 2, 3, and 5, and use 4 when it fades. So yeah, about this class, the damage, 27k. I believe in the previous video, I think our damage capped at like, 24k. Now we're doing 25, we're doing, 20, 4k to 27k damage right here. So that's kind of like a bit of an upgrade, if I would say so myself. Healing has gone down a bit. We used to do like, 1100 heals, and now, we aren't anymore. We aren't doing that much anymore. Plus, the damage kind of went down a bit. No, now we're doing like 20. Alright, here goes the 27k again. So our damage will cap out at that point. So yeah, it still looks to be, a good option for soloing if you're a mid-game player. It's reducing, whatnot. You do have to worry about, bosses that are immune to being stunned, as, the Doom Overlord right here. So yeah, and in terms of like, kind of like the nuke, previously it went from, what was it, 17k to 24k. Now it's pretty much, could go up to like 27k without, potions and whatnot. Just use here, 7k again, and there you go. Oh wow. Oh wow. 66667. Wow. Oh boy. It's probably some bad luck. But, here you go, guys. In terms of soloing, it's still a good option for mid-game players, but the damage has went up and down at the same time. Like, nuke damage went up, but like outside of that, the damage outside of nuke has went down, and the healing has, gone down a bit as well. So I'll just say in conclusion, still a good soloing option for mid-game players. Alright then, let's move on to farming. Alright people, so in terms of farming, I mean, it could still be a good farmer, but you have to watch your HP, especially in situations like these. Stream war, whatnot. If you believe that, Vainglory isn't really going to help out, there's always Avarice. Other than that, Troll Spellsmith, even in situations like these, can still hold its own as a farmer. Even though the Sigil, Overload does, take away stacks, Troll Spellsmith, it's still an effective farmer, kind of like, a good choice to have if you don't have any of the top tier, farming options like Legion Revenant, Archmage, Dragon of Time, etc. This could still be, a decent substitute until you get some late game classes. That's me. And there. So yeah, could still hold its own, doing damage. And still has the nuke right there. Energy Arc can still reduce haste and target up to 4 targets. There. Here, here. Healing, always critting is pretty nice as well. Nice as well. Let's see if we're at 55, 56 kills. Oh, you still gotta watch out for your healing. Right then and there. Up, 2 minutes have passed. Right then and there. So yeah, within 2 minutes, it was able to get 60 kills. That's good for a farming class, especially in a situation like Stream War where people try to get prismatic seams. Well, with a kill ratio of like 60, whatnot, 29.75 per minute, it's a good range for a farming class to be at. So yeah, in terms of farming, it's still a solid option for farming, especially for mid game players. And it could hold its own in like some end game, late game content, but not all late game to end game farming content. All right, then let's move on to survivability. All right, people. So we're about to get started with the survivability. All right, so in terms of survivability, while it does have access to to stuns and whatnot, reducing haste, reducing outgoing damage, its defenses still aren't the best. Leaving it in situations where it can get clapped up by harder bosses or in a one-shot, two-shot situation where you're gonna be spamming your heals and they're gonna be hitting hard, whatnot, and bam. So in terms of survivability, its defenses still aren't the best. It can get clapped up by harder bosses, even though yeah it does have access to stun. And plus you have to keep in mind that not like especially modern bosses are like immune to stun, so you know it can get one shot, two shot because its defenses aren't really the best. All right then, let's move on to support and then final thoughts. All right, people. So, we're at the end of the video. Now let's talk about the support that this class can offer. In terms of support, I mean, it can reduce the enemy's haste with energy arc, and Frostflame can like apply Shield and Seared at the same time. It could stun your target if the boss can be stunned, and it can reduce the target's outgoing damage by 20% for 10 seconds. So, in terms of support, it could offer a little bit of support, but there are classes out there that could offer far more debuffs than Troll Spellsmith. Alright then. Excuse me. Alright then. The pros about this buff Troll Spellsmith is that, it's still a solid farmer, still a solid soloer. It has its own auto attack that's based off of that deals damage based off of your sigil stacks. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have for pros. Alright then. The cons about the buff Troll Spellsmith is that its damage output did get lowered a bit because you saw outside of the nuking damage, its DPS did get lowered due to the changes of Troll Spellsmith. Its defenses still aren't that good as it can get clapped up by hard hitting monsters, one shot, two shot. Its auto attack, while it is good, it's a short range physical attack. A physical auto attack on a magic on a basically fully magical class, okay? And its healing, output, I believe it got lowered as well because, back in the original Troll Spellsmith video, I was like doing like 11k heal. So yeah, they did lower the healing a bit on the class. So yeah, that's pretty much it for cons. Alright then. For my final verdict about Troll Spellsmith, you know, post change Troll Spellsmith it's still a solid option for mid-game players to use, as it can work as a decent generalist for mid-game players. I recommend getting this class if you're a mid-game player. Alright then, that's pretty much been it for the Troll Spellsmith video. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. For those who have Troll Spellsmith, how do you feel about these class changes overall? Not just, Horcavator, but like all the different changes. Probably next up is the buffed, Thief of Hours overview. You already know, guys. Like, share, subscribe. How do I personally feel about this class? I mean, it's a bit confusing to use now, and the damage and the healing got lowered a bit, but, like I said, it's still a solid option for mid-game players. Alright then, make sure to like, subscribe, road to 400. And, yeah. Hi guys, out.